Kamala Harris sat down with MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle for her first one-on-one network interview since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, and it didn't go well. Here's the most pathetic part. It starts with Harris being questioned about the economy, and she tries to misrepresent Donald Trump's record and is surprisingly fact-checked by Ruhle. And it then finishes with her being questioned about taxes, to which she gives a catastrophically bad answer to. Check this out.
Over the last 4 years, there have been tremendous economic wins, and you've just laid out a big plan. But still, polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000. He lost manufacturing plants. Ask the auto workers how he lost auto plants. We have grown over 20 new auto plants. He has an agenda. Let's just deal with it right now going forward, not to mention what happened in the past. He has an agenda that would include making it more difficult for workers to earn overtime, an agenda that would include cutting off access to small business loans for small businesses, an agenda that includes tariffs to the point that the average working person will spend 20% more on everyday necessities and an estimated $4,000 more a year on those everyday necessities, to the point that top economists in our country, from Nobel laureates to people at Moody's and Goldman Sachs, have compared my plan with his and said my plan would grow the economy, his would shrink the economy. Some of them have actually assessed that his plan would increase inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. So the facts remain that Donald Trump has a history of taking care of very rich people. And I'm not mad at anybody for being rich, but they should pay their fair share. But tax cuts for the billionaires and the top corporations in our country, and then not really paying much attention to middle-class families. My perspective on the economy is when you grow the middle class, America's economy is stronger. And there's empirical evidence to prove my point correct.
Then let me ask you about taxes, because lots of people will say, I don't like Donald Trump, but he cut my taxes. He didn't just cut corporate taxes, he cut individual taxes. Now, that expires next year, and there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, are you going to lift that cap?
So, first of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they are going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share.
Notice the word salad that Kamala Harris spit out here about how Donald Trump makes things more expensive for everyone, yet his tax cuts, the ones that are saving everybody, corporate and individual, money right now, are the ones that are currently set to expire next year. And they are also the ones that the Biden-Harris administration kept in effect. Also, tax credits for families already exist under the current Trump tax cuts. My wife and I have 5 kids, and we get them. Finally, her plan requires funding and relies on increasing corporate taxes a lot. And when she was asked about how she plans to do that if the GOP wins Congress, she said, well, we're just gonna have to. That's just it. Yeah, that's not how being president works, man. Kamala Harris is like a Democratic AI bot that just says what she needs to say and is what she needs to be depending on the agenda. She's black, she's Native American, she's Spanish, she's a gun owner, she's anti-gun, she's for taxes, she's against taxes. Like, who is Kamala Harris? Truly, who is she? This is a woman that has sold her soul for power, and it's sad to see. You can see the fraud and the lies on her face.